Hey everybody, Poppin' Fresh here, back with a team builder for the first week of Season 3 of the VBL-S. This is my second time recording this video. I recorded it once before I left for vacation for a week, and as I was there, I thought about some things, I talked to some people, and I figured out I could make a couple different tweaks to my team that make it better than it was in the first time I made this video, so we're going through it again. So, getting into it, let's see. So, this week I am facing Bohm and the Undella Unknowns, who was a very, very good contender last season. I think he single-handedly, combined with the Dynamax, Gigantamax compression, he got like his entire team put in the S tier, so I think that's the trademark of a great player. So, kind of gonna be a rough week. So, we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking at his new team. He has a couple guys who I think are pretty likely to come, and maybe 3 or so others that are possibilities, but still less likely. So whenever I start a team builder and any kind of process like that, I always like to look at what my opponent is most likely to bring against me. I can prep against everything, but I mean, if I prep my whole team to counter his core fish, I mean, what are the odds that actually comes, and what are the odds I'm wasting move slots and moves and indeedies and all that stuff? So I tried to identify what I think is most likely to try to beat me this week, and in this case, like I said earlier, I think he has a solid 5 that come, plus or minus maybe 1 or 2 here and there. So starting off, I think it was his first pick, and it makes sense. It's Dragapult. It's a fantastic mon. It's been all over the format since Sword and Shield came out. It's versatile, it's offensive, it's supportive, it's super, super fast, so it doesn't need to invest in much to outspeed the entirety of my team. It can't have its stats dropped. If he wants to be sneaky, he can do Infiltrator and break through my screens or anything like that. So it's such a good Pokemon, honestly. It's super well-rounded. I would be shocked if he brought the same set of 4 moves to any week, honestly. And EVs, it can be all over the place because it has lots and lots of EVs to spare due to that high speed stat. Another probability, I think, is Heatran. It's a great Pokemon. It's super, super bulky with its great typing. It has, like, I think 3 weaknesses, and it's just a cannon also on top of that. It has great defenses, great offense. Only downside is a little bit slow, but in draft that can work for you. You can use it in Trick Room. Granted, it's a little faster than a lot of Trick Room threats would like to be, so it's almost in that awkward tier, but it's still definitely good enough to be fast or slow, so something to keep in mind when I prepare against it. Another one that he's likely to bring is Primarina, who I had last season. It was a tier 2 last season, which was a mistake, and it was a pretty quick pick for him at a tier 1, so that just goes to show how great Primarina is. It's, again, another powerful special offensive mon. It has really great type synergy, so just in his first 3 picks here, which I think these were his first 3 in order, he has his Fairy Dragon Steel, which obviously is a great defensive combination, also an offensive combination, but the fact, given the individual 3 that he picked, Dragapult, Heatran, Primarina, they're all bulky enough to fulfill the defensive niches that they need to be able to act as the core that they do, whereas last season I had a Fairy Dragon Steel, but they were not quite all as bulky as they needed to be. It was really my steals where I was lacking, but Heatran is about the best bulky steel type you can grab, especially in a draft league. But enough about Heatran. Back to Primarina. Primarina is great, super powerful. It can run a lot of different items, and it makes use of spread moves better than most other Pokemon do, with its Liquid Voice changing Hyper Voice to a water move and just doing ludicrous amounts of damage, especially if you can boost its attack with, say, a Throat Spray, or lower my defenses with Fake Tears or something like that. It's a great mon. Super, super good, and I would be shocked if it didn't show up this week. Another mon of his that I think is likely to come is Mimikyu, and I think that's only due to the fact that it's his only Trick Room setter, and I think it'd probably be nice for him to have an option to go Trick Room against my team, with how good Mudsdale matches up into me, which is the other one I think I'll be bringing. And these two are kind of one pick, right? If he brings Mimikyu, he's likely to bring he's gonna bring Mudsdale, but Mudsdale can also function without Mimikyu, so Mimikyu's just there for Trick Room, but I think Mudsdale will probably show up. It's actually really, really strong when you look at it. It's kind of unassuming, but it has great abilities, very, very bulky, and with an Assault Vest and Dynamax, it's actually incredibly hard to break through, even with a super powerful special attacker. and it's also his really only hard counter to circuitry. I guess you could say Sand Slash is, but I mean, why would you bring Sand Slash when you have Mudsdale? So that's those are pretty much the locks that I have that I'm likely to be facing. And when it comes to the guys I'm probably going to be facing, number one I think is possibly Liepard. Liepard is a great supporter. It's a dark type prankster. It can't be prankster. It can't have prankster stuff happen to it, but it can do all its fun little kind of shenanigans. But one of the reasons why I don't think it's a lock and I don't think it's 100% to come is that my team is one of actually a few. I think every Psychic Terrain setter got picked this season, but it's uniquely good against priority stuff, and due to that, Liepard really can't do much if if the Psychic Terrain is up, right? What does Liepard do? It fakes out, it does fake tears. I think it also gets Snarl, which would be nice against my team, so that's another reason why I think it'll come. But other than that, it's kind of just neutered if the Psychic Terrain is up. It has a really hard time doing things within the Psychic Terrain, so that's why it's not as... that's why I don't think it's a must bring. I think it's a consideration. Another one is Aerodactyl. It's a great Tailwind supporter. It's a fast one, so it can, with the new speed mechanics, you can set up a fast Tailwind and have your slower partner move quickly. So it would pair well with Primarina, for example. It also has Wide Guard, which is pretty nice, given the fact that I have Psychic Terrain and two decently powerful Expanding Force users, and some other spread move guys like Circuitry with Discharge, or Wishywashy with Surf, or something like that. And it's his only way to stop that. So I think that's another reason. But one of the possible downsides of Aerodactyl is that it's a flying type. So it's above the ground, so it doesn't get protected by the Psychic Terrain. So if he does bring it, it'll be vulnerable to some of my mons that will be bringing priority moves, even though I do have Psychic Terrain. So it's it makes it less desirable here, right? Where it'll be his only mon that's vulnerable to the Psychic Terrain when it's up, which it will probably be up for most of the game. And last but not least, this is an addition that I had from the last time I recorded this. I think Credilli is actually probably come. I might even move it up to yep. If I was going to go back and change my colors, I would honestly put it maybe in yellow, possibly in green, because it does a really good. I didn't notice this originally, but I was watching like Jordan's draft reviews when I was in California and all that, and it was it kind of dawned on me that Credilli has really good defensive synergy with his team here. He has Heatran and Mudsdale, which share a big weakness to water types, and Credilli can absorb those and boost its special attack to non-trivial levels once it gets that boost. So it's definitely very threatening. It's good in Trick Room. It's very bulky, so I think of these three that I have here for possibly facing, I would honestly put Credilli at number one, possibly even above Mimikyu, to be honest, but we'll see in a couple hours when I play him. And when you look at his team as a whole, kind of summarizing it, it doesn't have a very strong Trick Room mode, which is why I'm kind of hesitant on Mimikyu coming at all. It does have a special bias, whereas he really only has 1, 2 physical attackers, 3 if you count Decidueye. But he also has no obvious combos, which you might think is a downside, but it's honestly kind of an upside, because I don't know what to personally prepare for. I don't see a bread and butter combo, right? I don't see Indeedy Hat. I don't see Sun and Chlorophyll guy, right? Like I'll be facing next week. I don't see Clef PZ, that kind of thing. So it makes it harder for me to prepare, and it makes it better for him to have the element of surprise, you know? So that's kind of how I see his team. So let's move into what I'm going to be bringing against him. Oh shit, I always forget the slides here. Here's what his moves are. This is just kind of for me to keep in mind. Really, the important thing here is the speed control section. Again, Mimikyu is only Trick Room, Aerodactyl is only Tailwind, Icy Wind, the only viable user that's Primarina, and some Bulldoze fun and blah blah blah. Moving on. So here's who I'll be bringing this week. For the first week, I will be bringing Slurpuff, Hitmontop, Circuitry, Indeedy, Ringaroo, and Wishywashy. Kind of a nice showing of my lower tier mons in this first week, because I think they all play together pretty nicely, and I think they'll be able to get the job done. So starting off, Slurpuff. And I'm kind of showing this in order of how I added them onto the team. So my first thought was that I needed a way to be able to deal with Dragapult if it's offensive or if it's defensive. So I looked at my team, and Slurpuff was actually the best option I have against it. And when I see Slurpuff on my team, I picked it primarily for its Unburden, Psychic Seed stuff, where I can go quickly and Cotton Spore things to slow them down for speed control. But with Burden and Weakness Policy, I can get a really fast, decently powerful little thingy here. I don't know what you'd call Slurpuff. It kind of looks like flan or like one of those little Jello desserts to me. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that's what it looks like to me. So this moveset here is, or EV spread's kind of weird. It's EV just enough to outspeed a timid Dragapult, which should be the fastest thing on either side of the field. And then the rest are thrown into special attack, and then some in its defense, the rest in HP, and then do a little trick where you take 1 off HP, put 2 in your defenses to just kind of make you marginally bulkier. So that's the rest of those explained with Dazzling Gleam, Spore, Dazzling Gleam. I wish it had Spore, Surf, Cotton Spore, and Protect. And this is primarily an offensive Slurpuff, where if you look at the calcs, max Starfall at +2 always kills a Dragapult. And the spread I have there for that Dragapult is, assuming it uses the minimum speed it needs to outspeed my max speed Persian, which does look pretty nice into his team, so I'd imagine he probably use as many EVs as it takes to get there. So what is that, like 44, I think? With the rest in HP and special defense. Even so, you can see, if he does that, which I honestly don't think he does, who puts 252 Spadef into a Dragapult and then Dynamaxes it? But if he does, I still have a 50% shot to kill it with a max Starfall, which is kind of crazy. So a more realistic Dragapult set would probably die every single time. So I feel pretty good about that. This is a kind of a once this policy is procced, a 1-mon Dragapult answer. And Cotton Spore and Protector there, so I can kind of protect myself while I'm max if I need to. And if I survive through all 3 turns of my max, I can get off a Cotton Spore to slow him down and let the rest of my team kind of put in work. So I don't expect Slurpuff to be able to use Cotton Spore, but if I make it to the point where I shrink back down, I can kind of go out with a little bang. Surf is there for coverage as it takes care. Oh shit! I go to the end of the. Oops. That's because I hit end. Okay, and Surf is there, which turns into Max Geyser, and that's to deal with Heatran, which and it says it's 75 or 74% chance to do a KO, but with the rain set up on the second turn, it will always get the 2-hit KO, and it does it. Kind of same situation with Mudsdale, where if he has a fully invested, super specially bulky Mudsdale, I can still deal with it. And I believe it's a roll for 2 hits with the rain up, but it's still pretty good odds. And how will I be proccing my weakness policy, you ask? I have Hitmontop for that. Hitmontop's incredible. It has like every priority move in the game, and I think it can pop a weakness policy on pretty much every single mon on my team, which is kind of crazy. So I am fully leaning into Hitmontop for a supportive role this time, with Bullet Punch, Close Combat, Brick Break, and Fake Out. And with 4 attacking moves, I slap an Assault Vest on it, maxed out its special defense and HP, and put the rest in defense. And the reason I did that was I just wanted to be able to do things consistently, right? I wanted to be able to Bullet Punch and live a couple hits and still do things afterwards. I wanted to be able to Fake Out if the Psychic Train's not up. Brick Break is... Because I based on his team, I have no idea what his Dragapult's going to do. So over the course of the game, if it starts to set screens, I have Brick Break there to smash those, obviously, in close combat just to do some good damage. And with my humongous investment into my special defense, I can close combat and then live some hits afterwards. I didn't run those calcs, but Hitmontop's, it's really bulky, so it should be okay. The only offensive calcs I have here are just that my close combat can 2-hit KO Credilli and Heatran if they're absolutely maximally invested in it, and if they're Dynamax, it can still do some pretty good damage. And the defensive calcs here, I didn't calc for anything in particular, but with this spread and with the Intimidate, it's Intimidate, I forgot to mention that. Hitmontop is nice in that it can run Intimidate or Technician, so it can be a multi-threat. But with the spread it has, and with the Intimidate drop on their attack, these are the 2 most powerful moves that'll be used against this Hitmontop. A Max Starfall from Mimikyu or a Max Starfall from Primarina. I have a pretty good shot to live both of those with this spread, honestly. The Primarina is more likely to come, and with it, Primarina is super powerful, right? But with all my investment, it only has a 31% chance to OHKO me, which is pretty good for a fighting type going up against the Primarina. So that's Hitmontop. He's here to enable Slurpuff and just kind of be consistent, kind of chip away at them and break screens if he does choose to bring them. Up next is a Ringaroo. This set did change a little bit since the last time I recorded this. It's all psychic moves now. It's with Mental Herb and Telepathy instead of Inner Focus, because it's paired with Indeedy, so how often is it going to get flinched? So with this, okay, so I didn't calc for anything in particular. I think I calced to always live the max Wormwind from a Life Orb Dragapult if it's adamant, and then everything else I just put into special defense. And I have it here with Trick Room, Expanding Force, Ally Switch, and Instruct. Trick Room, as it's my only Trick Room setter, but it's also one of the best ones in the game, so it's no sweat off my back to be bringing him for that. Expanding Force just to do some good damage. I mean, with Psychic Terrain boost, it does a good bit of damage, even if it's not invested at all. And then I have Ally Switch just to be annoying. And I have Instruct here, and I have Instruct paired with Telepathy Ringaroo because I have two other mons that I want to be using spread moves with and not take the damage from myself and be able to use the spread moves over and over and over. So that's the purpose of the set here. Again, these calcs are just kind of the most powerful physical and special hits that I'll be taking in this game. I can live them. I don't get Oko, which is pretty nice. Up next we have Circuitry, who I want to pair with Ringaroo primarily, and this is the mon that I've played with the spread the most out of all of them actually. I went between having a Shuka Berry, an Air Balloon, an Expert Belt, back to a Shuka Berry, back to an Expert Belt, and I finally settled on the Expert Belt. I think it's a good choice because it lets me get some key KOs this game that I won't be able to get if I don't bring the Expert Belt. And I don't want to bring a Life Orb because I don't want to be doing extra damage to myself with Instruct. And Expert Belt gets the job done without hurting me, and I still get the KOs I need. So I think this is what I need. We'll see if it pays off. But Circuitry here is EV to outspeed Aerodactyl at -1. And the rest is just in special attack and general bulkiness. And the moves I chose for it were Discharge, Energy Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Electro Web. And we can see here from the calcs, a max overgrowth on a max investment, because it's not max investment. Anyways, a very bulky, specially defensive Mudsdale that's not a boosting nature. It will always Oko it. So this will help tell me if... This is essentially going to tell me if its Mudsdale is Assault Vest or not. If it lives, it's either Dynamaxed or it's Assault Vest. And either way, that'll pretty much tell me what item it has. And then for my other calcs, I ran the Discharge against Assault Vest Primarina with max HP Force Spadef, which is a guarantee to a KO. And with Instruct, I should be able to do that again. What else do I have here? Max Starfall against Dragapult with its Dynamax with 2 HP and 0 Spadef. I wasn't too consistent on these calcs, but even if you go to the one I had, the other one where it was like Max Spadef and I think 112 HP, which is to outspeed Persian, that would still be a 2-hit KO. This thing just does tons of damage. And these, if I get a single KO with Circuitry, all of these numbers just get even better. They start turning into Okos all the time, and I can, with a Discharge, I can start blowing everything away. And honestly, I looked it up. Even if I use Discharge to kill Indeedy or someone else, I haven't revealed that I'm bringing Indeedy yet, but I am. I'll probably bring it every week. But even if I kill my own teammates with Discharge, I still get the Beast Boost, which is pretty sick. It's kind of nasty that it works that way. So like if Slurpuff comes out of Dynamax, gets off a Cotton Spore right before everything else dies, I can Discharge everything, kill the Slurpuff, get a boost, maybe get some other boosts from KOs. But I don't know, I just like Circuitry. It's super cool, and it's such a weird design. I love it, and I'm excited to use it. I didn't run any defensive calcs. It's not very bulky. If it's not Dynamax, it will die in like 1 or 2 hits. But hopefully Indeedy will pair up to keep him safe, or a Ringaroo will switch places with him and hopefully redirect things in that way. Up next is Indeedy with I think I changed it once. So it's Indeedy with some kind of item that is not Nogwath Berry, because that's what one of my other mons has. It's Psychic Surge and EV to survive all the strongest hits that can come at it, so it always goes down in 2 hits. Follow Me, Expanding Force, Protect, and Helping Hand. Originally, I had Fake Out on Indeedy to kind of be weird and quirky and possibly fake out Aerodactyl from using Tailwind. But I thought about it, and the odds of that actually, of that exact circumstance happening, are so incredibly low that I thought Helping Hand would just be better in general. And and I think it will be better. It always lives hits. It can always redirect, so it's just a great mod. This spread is pretty bulky, and it can stick around for a while. The 12 speed is because there's one mon on his team, I don't remember which it is, that I think speed ties or comes really close to matching up with indeedy, or something like that. And a lot of his mons I would expect to be EV to outspeed indeedy by 1 point with min speed, or with or like maybe by speed creeping by 1, but I'm speed creeping by 2 points. So hopefully that'll make me faster than something. I don't remember what the other thing I don't remember what I was concerned about. This was like 2 weeks ago when I built most of this team. And last but not least, we have Wishywashy, the actual holder of the Ogwaff Berry this week. This is max HP, max special attack, quiet with Surf, Ice Beam, Endeavor, and Protect. This is my Trick Room. This is my Trick Room mon, and hopefully the Trick Room answer to his entire team. It is super strong. So Surf does a lot of damage in and of itself. With this weird Aerodactyl spread that I put in 2 weeks ago, it has a good chance to OHKO it. I don't remember what that spread was for. I think that was speed to outspeed Persian, the rest in attack and HP, but it still has a good chance to OHKO. Max Geyser, guaranteed 2 hit KOs Heatran. Hailstorm does a ton of damage to Dragapult, and Hailstorm also does a lot of damage to Credilli, which is important because Credilli is a very good answer to Wishywashy and my Slurpuff's Max Geyser as well. So I ideally won't be bringing Wishywashy and Slurpuff to the same game, but if I do see that Credilli is there and he brings it, and then I bring Wishywashy the next game, I can still deal with it over the course of 2 turns with my Max Hailstorm. And the reason I chose Ogwaff Berry on Wishywashy is over anything else, I need the longevity. Wishywashy does a ton of damage, but its main problem is that it essentially only has 75% of the HP that it actually has, and it has pretty shitty HP to start with. So having the Ogwaff Berry is kind of just like a second lease on life for Wishywashy. It'll maybe keep me in schooled mode for 1 more turn. I'm not quite sure how schooling interacts with Dynamax. We'll find that out in the game, but I think the Ogwaff Berry is nice. I don't really need the extra power on this guy, honestly. He just does a lot by himself. And as much as I want to slap a Life Orb on Wishywashy, I can't afford to do that. That's just getting me closer and closer towards Tiny Baby mode, which is a recipe for disaster. But Surf and Ice Beam are kind of self-explanatory. But if I do go down to Tiny Baby mode, I have Endeavor, which, like I was talking about in the team review, even when Wishywashy becomes this little baby fish, you still can't ignore it. You still have to waste an attack on it. For your opponent, ideally, that'll be a spread move, but if, say Primarine is out of the picture, right? I can still... you have to physically target this tiny fish, otherwise I'm going to Endeavor you and knock you down to some horrible amount of HP. I should figure out with my Wishywashy the sets from the coming weeks, like I'm only going to be using Endeavor if it's in tiny form, so I should find out what the maximum amount of HP I can have to go into tiny form is, and then I can always know that Endeavor will always be dropping opponents to whatever that number is. But as for the future, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But Wishywashy, very strong. That's the moral of this slide. This is something new I added. I'm going to see how this works and if it can help me keep these plans in my head, because a lot of the times I get into a game and I just go lizard brain and just kind of go on autopilot, and then that's how I start making bad decisions or get tilted or flustered. So writing it out, I think, will actually help me stick to the game plan that I've created. So I think on the first game, I'm going to be leading with Indeedy and Circuitry with Hitmontop and Ringaroo in the back. This will help me figure out his speed control, because he'll probably want to do that game 1, be a Trick Room, Aerodactyl, or... I mean, those are really his only types of speed control, maybe Icy Wind too, but with those two together, I'll be able to start dealing with his threats. I can redirect stuff away from Circuitry and start getting some beast boosts, hopefully. I can slow them down with Electro Web if I have to, and Circuitry is a great Dynamax threat as well, especially with its Expert Belt and the beast boost, because essentially, if you let Circuitry get 1 boost, it's you have like maybe 1 or 2 turns before it's over, and it just steamrolls through everything else. Hitmontop and Oranguru in the back are just kind of general good stuffs. Oranguru for ally switch and construct. Hitmontop for screen breaking and just kind of consistent damage, and it pairs well with the Circuitry, because the only thing on his team that circuitry really can't hit is Credilli, and I can take care of that 2 hits with Hitmontop. So that's kind of my strategy for game 1, and I really need to find out in game 1 what his Dragapult is going to be doing, because based on that I can decide if I should use my Slurpuff against it, or if I can hit it with something else like the Max Starfall from circuitry, and just kind of figure out where I should go from there. So if he outspeeds me with, if his speed control beats mine in the first game, I want to go hard Trick Room, because his Trick Room mode does not beat mine. So that would be the Indeedy Guru, follow me into Trick Room, and then send out Wishywashy and just start going, Dynamax it as needed. Hitmontop is pretty much one of my kind of glue pieces this week. It comes no matter what I bring, same thing with Indeedy. They're just such good flexible options. And then if my first game works, or if I find out that it's an offensive Dragapult and then I need to beat it down, I can send in Slurpuff with Hitmontop, and that can. And one of the things is, like, I don't want to bring Slurpuff and Indeedy together on lead, because then the Psychic Seed won't proc, and then he'll know that I'm not Psychic Seed, and then I'll like weakness policy. Granted, when you see Slurpuff plus Hitmontop, you probably imagine it's going to proc a weakness policy, but I think its power is kind of, people would underestimate it, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's just kind of my general game plans. A lot of it, I don't want to flowchart too hard. That's how I get. That's another way I can go into Lizard Brain if I just follow the flowchart and I'm not able to adapt. But this helps give me some kind of skeleton that hopefully I'll actually remember when I play the game. And my last thing, for things to not forget, are do not try to drop Dragapult stats. I didn't bring any moves to drop stats on my team besides Electro Web and Intimidate, pretty much specifically for this, because otherwise I know I would try to do it. Another thing to remember is I have to play around Mudsdale intelligently. It can take out circuitry in one hit, even if it's Dynamaxed, and from there that's a quick way for me to lose the game if I do bring circuitry, and that's my win con for that match. So if I find out that it can live a max overgrowth, then I know it's Assault Vest. Mudsdale's either going to be Assault Vest or Weakness Policy, most likely, maybe a Berry, but I need to find out what item it has. Same thing with Dragapult. And then the last thing, which is going to be something I need to remember for the entire season, is to not use my priority moves on my opponents when it's Psychic Terrain. I can use them on myself, but I cannot use it on them, unless it's a flying type. But yeah, that's about all I got for this team builder. I think it's a good thing that I re-recorded it, was able to flesh out my thoughts a little bit more with my updated team and my sets and all that. So yeah, that's the team builder. I will see you guys in the game.